All right, getting right into it today. Growth hormone and prolactin receptors. Pretty important stuff. We've got some research here.
Yep.
And, well, it really digs into how these receptors work, their pathways, and how they fit into this whole superfamily of receptors. You know, the ones that control things like growth, lactation, and even metabolism. Ready to jump in?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a fascinating area, a lot of research going on. And, these receptors are like key players in so many vital processes.
Okay, so maybe we start with the basics. I mean, most folks probably already know hormones are like messengers in our bodies, but
Yeah,
maybe just a quick refresher on how they actually work for our listeners.
sure, yeah. Imagine our bodies as this complex communication network, with hormones acting as the messengers. They carry information to different cells and tissues. Vital information, of course. These hormones, well, they travel through the bloodstream, and they're searching for their specific target, the receptors.
So the receptors are like the receiving stations for these hormonal messages.
Exactly. And in the case of growth hormone and prolactin, their receptors, well, they belong to this powerful group called the cytokine receptor superfamily. Big name, I know. But this family, it's responsible for mediating a wide range of physiological processes.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's zoom in on these specific receptors. How do they actually work? Growth hormone and prolactin receptors, I mean.
Think of these receptors as locks on the surface of cells,
Mhm.
just waiting, right? Waiting for the right key to come along to activate them. And that key is their corresponding hormone. So when growth hormone, for instance, binds to its receptor, it triggers like a cascade of events inside the cell.
It's like a chain reaction, right? Setting off all these different events.
Exactly. And this chain reaction, it involves a specific signaling pathway, the JAK-STAT pathway.
Now, I remember we talked about the JAK-STAT pathway. It was a previous deep dive
Yeah.
a while back. Can you remind us what that's all about?
Sure, the JAK-STAT pathway, well, it's like a super efficient mailroom inside the cell, making sure the instructions from the hormone, they get delivered to the right departments, within the cell's nucleus, where the cell's DNA lives. And these instructions, ultimately, they lead to changes in gene expression, turning genes on or off.
Okay, so the JAK-STAT pathway is how the message from the hormone, it actually gets translated into action within the cell. Now, where do growth hormone and prolactin, where do they fit into all of this? What kind of instructions are they sending?
That's where it gets really interesting. Both growth hormone and prolactin, they use the JAK-STAT pathway, but they trigger different outcomes. Growth hormone, as you might expect, it promotes growth, stimulates the production of another hormone called IGF-1. That plays a key role in bone growth, among other things. Prolactin, on the other hand, primarily known for its role in stimulating milk production in mammary glands.
So even though they use the same pathway, they're sending different messages,
Mhm.
leading to different effects in different tissues.
Precisely. And, this highlights the complexity of hormonal signaling. It's not just about the pathway itself. It's also about the specific receptor, the specific hormone,
Yeah.
and the specific target cell.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm curious about something. We've been talking about growth hormone and prolactin as if they only affect growth and lactation, respectively. But I've heard they have broader metabolic effects as well. Is that right?
You're absolutely right. Both of these hormones, they have far-reaching effects on metabolism. For example, growth hormone. It influences protein synthesis, fat breakdown, and even blood sugar regulation. Prolactin also has roles beyond lactation. It influences immune function and even behavior.
Wow. So they're much more than just growth and lactation hormones. I'm starting to see why this superfamily of receptors is so important.
Exactly. This superfamily, it orchestrates this complex symphony of functions throughout the body. And, understanding how these receptors work, it's crucial for understanding so many things, a wide range of physiological processes, and even for developing new treatments for various diseases.
Okay, so we've got these two hormones using the same pathway,
Yeah.
but with different effects on different tissues. So how does the body make sure everything is working, in harmony?
That's a great question. One crucial mechanism is feedback loops. Let's take growth hormone as an example. When it stimulates the production of IGF-1, well, IGF-1 can actually feedback and inhibit further growth hormone release. This helps to keep everything in balance.
It's like a thermostat, right? It regulates the levels of growth hormone based on the levels of IGF-1. That's pretty neat.
It is. And these feedback loops are essential for maintaining homeostasis, that delicate balance that keeps our bodies functioning properly.
Now, I remember from our last deep dive on receptors, scientists were puzzled by the fact that sometimes different hormones using the same JAK-STAT pathway can have different effects. And they discovered something called microdomains to explain this. Does that concept play a role here too?
That's a fascinating question, and it's definitely an area of ongoing research. While we don't have all the answers yet, it's certainly possible that microdomains contribute to the specificity of growth hormone and prolactin signaling.
So even though they use the same pathway, these microdomains might help to fine-tune their effects in different tissues.
Exactly. It's like having different neighborhoods within the cell, each with its own unique set of proteins and signaling molecules. These microdomains could help to ensure that the right message is delivered to the right place, at the right time, even when different hormones are using the same delivery service.
So it's all about location, location, location. These microdomains might help to explain how the body achieves such precise control over complex processes like growth, lactation, and metabolism.
Precisely. And this highlights just how intricate and sophisticated cellular signaling truly is. It's like a complex dance, with multiple partners moving in sync, each playing a crucial role in the overall performance.
This is also fascinating. It really makes you appreciate the incredible complexity of our bodies.
It really does. And the more we learn about these intricate processes, the more we realize how much there is still to discover. Welcome back. Before the break, we were discussing how growth hormone and prolactin, despite using the same JAK-STAT pathway, they have such distinct effects on the body. Now, you might be wondering, how do they manage to target specific tissues, like bone for growth hormone and mammary glands for prolactin?
You read my mind. It's amazing how these hormones know exactly where to go, what to do.
It all comes down to, receptor specificity. Remember how we talked about receptors being like locks and hormones being the keys? Well, each hormone has a unique shape that fits perfectly into its corresponding receptor.
So it's like a lock and key system,
Yeah.
ensuring that only the right hormone can activate the right receptor.
Exactly. And this specificity, this is what allows growth hormone to primarily target cells in bone tissue, while prolactin targets cells in the mammary glands. Think of it like a postal code system. The hormone, with its unique shape, it acts like the postal code, ensuring that the message gets delivered to the correct address, the specific receptor, on the target cell.
That's a great analogy. Really helps to visualize how this whole system works. But I'm also curious about something else. Earlier, you mentioned that growth hormone, it stimulates the production of IGF-1, which plays a key role in bone growth.
Mhm.
Where does IGF-1 fit into this lock and key system? Does it have its own, specific receptor?
Absolutely. IGF-1 has its own receptor, and it's actually a member of a different receptor family, the receptor tyrosine kinase family. This family is known for its role in regulating cell growth and proliferation.
Okay, so we've got different receptor families working together to orchestrate these complex processes. It's starting to feel like a whole interconnected network.
Of communication? It really is. And this complexity, this is what allows the body to fine-tune its responses to various stimuli. Think about it. Growth is a multifaceted process. It involves, not just bone growth, but also muscle development, organ growth, and so on, having multiple hormones and receptors working in concert. Well, this allows for precise control over each aspect of this intricate process.
Now, I'm curious about something else. We've been talking about how hormones activate their receptors and trigger these downstream signaling cascades. But what happens when the hormone, when it's no longer present? Does the signaling just stop abruptly?
That's a great question. And the answer is, not necessarily. Remember how we talked about feedback loops earlier? Well, those loops play a crucial role in regulating the duration and the intensity of this signal.
So even after the hormone is gone, the pathway, the signaling pathway, it might still be active for a while, depending on the feedback mechanisms in place.
Exactly. And this is important for maintaining homeostasis. Think about growth hormone again. If the signaling pathway just shut off immediately after the hormone was gone, bone growth would be very jerky, a stop-and-go process. But thanks to the feedback loops involving IGF-1 and other factors, the process is much smoother, more controlled.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But I'm also wondering about something else. We've been focusing on the positive effects of growth hormone and prolactin. But what happens when these signaling pathways go wrong? Are there any, negative consequences?
Unfortunately, yes. Dysregulation of these pathways, it can lead to various health problems. For example, excessive growth hormone production. This can lead to a condition called acromegaly, characterized by enlarged hands, feet, and facial features. On the other hand, growth hormone deficiency. This can lead to stunted growth in children.
So it's a delicate balance. Too much or too little of these hormones, and it can cause problems.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this highlights the importance of understanding these signaling pathways in detail. By unraveling the complexities of these systems, researchers, they can develop targeted therapies for various conditions related to growth hormone and prolactin dysregulation.
Now, I remember earlier you mentioned that prolactin plays a role in immune function and behavior. Can you elaborate on that a bit? Those seem like, pretty different roles from lactation.
Absolutely. Prolactin is actually, well, it's a very versatile hormone.
Mm.
It has a wide range of functions beyond lactation. In fact, it's one of the most diverse hormones in the body, with over 300 known actions.
Wow, that's incredible. Over 300 actions. It's like the Swiss Army knife of hormones. So what are these other functions?
Well, in terms of immune function, prolactin has been shown to influence the development and activity of, well, various immune cells. It can even modulate the production of cytokines, which are signaling molecules involved in inflammation and immune responses.
So prolactin is kind of like a conductor, coordinating various aspects of the immune system. That's pretty cool. And what about its role in behavior?
Research suggests that prolactin plays a role in maternal behavior, stress responses, and even social bonding. For example, studies have shown that prolactin levels, well, they increase in both mothers and fathers after the birth of a child. And these elevated levels, they're thought to contribute to parental care and bonding.
Wow. So prolactin isn't just about milk production. It's also involved in, like, nurturing and connecting with others. That's a pretty powerful hormone.
It really is. And these diverse functions, they highlight just how interconnected our biological systems are. Hormones, they don't operate in isolation. They interact with each other and with various tissues to orchestrate this complex web of physiological processes.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. Everything is connected.
Exactly. And that's what makes biology so fascinating. The more we learn, the more we realize, how much we still don't know. And that's what drives us to keep exploring and asking questions.
This has been, well, an incredibly insightful deep dive so far. We've uncovered so much about growth hormone and prolactin, their signaling pathways, their diverse functions, and the intricate feedback mechanisms that keep everything in balance. But I'm sure, we've only just scratched the surface.
You're absolutely right. There's so much more to explore in the world of hormones and receptors. And as research continues, well, we're bound to uncover even more fascinating insights into these complex systems.
Well, I'm definitely eager to learn more, and I'm sure our listeners are too. But I think we need to take a short break to let all of this information sink in. We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into the fascinating world of growth hormone and prolactin receptors. Welcome back. We've been unpacking a lot of information about growth hormone and prolactin receptors. And, well, it makes me wonder about the research. What are scientists currently focused on when it comes to these receptors, I mean?
Well, one area, a really big area of research, focuses on understanding, well, really the intricacies of receptor activation and signaling. Remember how we discussed the JAK-STAT pathway and that whole concept of microdomains?
Yeah, I remember.
Well, scientists, they're working to map these pathways out in detail, identifying all the key players and their roles in the signaling cascade.
So they're kind of creating a blueprint,
Yeah.
a detailed blueprint of how these receptors actually work.
Exactly. And with this blueprint, they can start to pinpoint, potential targets for therapies. For example, imagine if we could develop drugs that specifically target certain components of the JAK-STAT pathway to either enhance or inhibit, well, growth hormone or prolactin signaling.
That would open up so many possibilities, right, for treating so many conditions,
Yeah.
related to growth disorders, lactation problems, or even just metabolic imbalances.
Precisely. And this is just one avenue. Scientists are also exploring gene therapy to correct defects in these receptors, especially in cases where genetic mutations are responsible for certain diseases.
So gene therapy could offer a way to, like, fix the locks themselves, so to speak, ensuring that the hormones can bind properly, and trigger the correct signaling pathways.
Exactly. And with advances in gene editing technologies, like CRISPR, this field is, well, it's rapidly evolving, offering hope for patients with conditions that were, well, previously untreatable.
It's amazing to think about the potential impact of all of this research. But I'm also curious about, well, something else. Earlier, we talked about the broader metabolic effects of growth hormone and prolactin. Are scientists looking into those effects as well?
Absolutely. Researchers are increasingly recognizing the importance of these hormones, beyond their traditional roles in growth and lactation. For example, studies are investigating growth hormone as a potential treatment for muscle wasting and frailty in older adults.
So growth hormone might not just help us grow taller, but it might also help us, stay stronger and healthier as we age.
That's the hope.
Ah.
And there's also growing interest in the role of prolactin in various metabolic processes, including like glucose regulation and fat metabolism. Some studies even suggest that prolactin might have protective effects against certain types of cancer.
Wow, so it seems like we're only beginning to understand, the full range of these hormones' effects.
Exactly. And this underscores the importance of continued research in this area, I mean. The more we learn about growth hormone and prolactin, the better equipped we'll be, to develop new therapies and improve human health.
Well, this has been a truly illuminating deep dive into the world of growth hormone and prolactin receptors. We've explored their signaling pathways, their functions, and the exciting research. That's really pushing the boundaries of our understanding, and I've learned a lot.
It's been a pleasure, really, sharing this journey of discovery with you. And I hope our listeners, well, I hope they've gained a newfound appreciation for these receptors. I mean, they're complex, but they're also quite elegant.
I have no doubt they have, and I hope they'll join us again for our next deep dive into the fascinating world of biology. Until then, keep those minds curious and keep exploring the wonders of the natural world.